what would you do if they brought the power grid down? And by they, I mean that the government purposefully brought the power grid down. And I'm not asking that question for fun. I'm asking that question because the World Economic Forum is predicting that a cyber pandemic, you can look this up, they've been running exercises about it this year, is inevitable. You're probably saying, what is a cyber pandemic? It doesn't make any sense. Like, what are we even talking about? Well, first and foremost, the reason I'm even paying attention to the World Economic Forum and their exercises is because they notoriously, in 2019, ran an exercise for a coronavirus pandemic that oddly all became true. I mean, without one slight difference. They said that the coronavirus was going to escape from a wet market in South America. Of course, when the coronavirus swept the world in 2020, they said that it escaped from a wet market in China. You can still look that up, by the way. That's not a conspiracy theory. They simulated that coronavirus pandemic. It was the World Economic Forum in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in collaboration with Johns Hopkins University. And the website is still up, and they say, the coronavirus pandemic is inevitable, and then boom, it happened the very next year. So people say it's a conspiracy theory to believe that they knew that the coronavirus pandemic was going to happen. You don't have to believe it was a conspiracy theory, or you can believe it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It's up to you. I don't really care. The point is that they made the prediction, they called it inevitable, and then it happened immediately. So for me personally, that signals to me that I should probably pay attention the next time the World Economic Forum makes a prediction and calls it inevitable. And lo and behold, they are predicting that a coronavirus pandemic, a cyber pandemic, is going to happen, and that it is once again inevitable. So if you look into the exercise that they have run this year, I believe they run it in July. They've been meeting and talking about the cyber pandemic, what it would look like. Essentially, their idea is that they're going to have to sanitize the internet because a bug, think of this as like a coronavirus for your computer, is going to sweep globally, and the only way they're going to be able to stop this bug from infecting everything is to effectively shut down the internet, right? And they were talking about bringing down the power grid in an effort to do this. So imagine the government bringing down the power grid, and you would not have access to anything that required an electrical charge.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Homeland Security is warning of a potential troubling escalation in tactics from right-wing extremists. Catherine Herridge has more on this, and she joins us from Washington. Catherine, we understand the power grid could be a target?
Good morning. According to the intelligence report obtained by CBS News, these groups have developed credible and specific plans to attack the power grid since at least 2020 as a way to disrupt the country and the ability of government to operate. The report warns extremists adhering to a range of ideologies will likely continue to plot and encourage physical attacks against power networks, which include more than 6,400 plants and nearly 500,000 miles of high-voltage lines. While the bulletin emphasized small-scale attacks are unlikely to cause widespread power loss, it may cause disruption to critical infrastructure like hospitals and police departments. Homeland Security noted several indicators, including online chatter. While the report does not suggest an imminent threat, the Homeland Security Secretary has warned lone wolf actors and small bands of extremists are among the greatest domestic threat because they are hard to detect, disrupt, and can mobilize quickly.
Shalom, shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashimi, Hawashai, Ba'ashim Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in the gospel, brother, of the understanding of Yahweh, Ba'ashimi, Hawashai, wherever it may be. This is a quick lesson through the Spirit. Lord's will be edifying from the brother Arrows of Indignation 144. Brings out some edifying clips, about world events and things that's transpiring in the world. As we know that we're living in a collapse and a total downfall in the final power structure of the so-called white man, being the biblical Edomites, aka the biblical Idumeans. All right, we're living in a time of the downfall, so therefore Esau is coming down with great wrath and judgment because he understands that his kingdom is pretty much at its end. Okay, Esau has reached his peak of pride, his pinnacle, and now he's getting ready to fall. Saying like with a roller coaster, when you're on a roller coaster, you start pretty much on mid-ground, then you go up to the highest peak, and then the fall is the most scariest part, because there's no control after that, which we're witnessing a total collapse of the Western hegemonies, man. All right, and call Allah Yahweh Shemi Hawashai for that, because we're getting ready to get in our kingdom, and we're getting ready to be at peace once and for all. And like the scriptures say, Israel should dwell in safety alone, and nobody should make him afraid. Because when you wake up in his kingdom, you're constantly on edge. You constantly have bouts of anxiety because, being under the curses, things only go so good for so long before you get some folly that's coming down your pipeline, man. And you just know it's going to happen. You kind of feel it like shit. I've been kind of good. I'm accomplishing this, and this is going kind of good. Now what's going to be the monkey wrench or the curveball, But ultimately, these things are not to get us out the truth, because we have Yahweh Shemi Hawashai, of course. But this lady by the name of Candace Owens, which she has a ton full of makeup, literally, she looks like a Mr. Potato Head with a ponytail in the back of the motherfucking head. Candace Owens, which I actually claimed her in the kingdom. Because I don't know, there's something about her eyes, even though she's a demon, you know what I'm saying, and she's married to the Amalekite. She's got to be destroyed and come back in the kingdom, But anyway, I don't know, this may have been like 23, maybe 2023 or something like that, because I remember the next clip with the James Bond villain by the name of Swab, basically stating that the cyber attacks, which was going to hit globally, which was going to cause outages in different parts of the world, and we've been seeing that transpire since 2023, at least they're publicizing, man, from HCA systems going offline to banks to money markets to corporations to grids. Hell, the ordeal that took place last month in Portugal and Spain, parts of Europe, and they still don't have an answer as to what caused it. But it's so funny and ironic how these men can call this at the World Economic Forum, and then all of a sudden it happens, and the people are too dumb to put two and two together and say, well, maybe these are the ones that's controlling the strings. Maybe these monopolies and these monarchies, so to speak, not monarchies, but monarchs, are causing these ordeals, because it's not out of the normal possibility that the governments and the powers to be above the government controls everything around us, man. I remember at a point in time, maybe 20 years ago, even though you had governments, I won't even call them conspiracies, man, because you got what they call conspiracy fact, not theory. A theory is just something that's guessed and not proven to be true, but there has been proof that these governments have been tampering with human affairs since the beginning of time, right? But these people are through, man. Golly. But it's not out of the realm of possibility now to believe that a shadow government is literally manipulating your life every step of the way. And since we have the World Wide Web, or the unicorn, the internet, now these facts are becoming more known and prevalent, man. So hey, the jig is up. He's caught. But she was basically saying what will happen during a time of a blackout or grid outage. Well, I mean, that's easy. First thing foremost, there may be some type of the first day or two, because power outages are pretty common, especially when you live in a society like this. The grid is overloaded. Everything is just totally convoluted here. Everybody is on a particular cell tower. The electricity, everything is just over fucking saturated here, man. So it's not hard to understand. You may have a blackout for 2-3 days, but anything after that with no semblance of things coming back online, that's when people will start to kind of lose it, and that's when the rioting and all the other shit will start to, manifest itself. Because one thing about these people in America, they have no discipline. Okay, the average person, they don't even fast. Okay, the average person don't even work out, or let alone have a somewhat of a decent diet to even get themselves through dark times, man. So, I mean, it's quite easy to see exactly what's gonna come of these people, man. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, man, when this happens, first thing and foremost, what's gonna go is the supermarkets. People gonna raid the grocery stores, and they're gonna loot each other because they're gonna, want food, shelter, raiment. They're gonna want water. They're gonna want all these things. So that's first thing and foremost. And then you have to understand people that's hospitalized or people that's on ventilators and stuff like that. They'll be very vulnerable, because it even mentioned that a lot of those power, like out there in Gaza, when Amalek was bombing Gaza, they said that a lot of people that was in the hospitals lost power to generators and the ventilation systems, not the ventilation systems, but those ventilators, and they died. A lot of people died from that. You know what I'm saying? Because the elderly, what they're going to do without the proper breathing equipment. So there's going to be mass death, mass chaos, mass turmoil. Cities are going to burn down. Neighborhoods are going to burn down. There would be rioting and looting everywhere. I mean, it's going to be like literally Mad Max on steroids. This is why the scriptures say that, therefore I've seen every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail. Because it says in that day, the mighty men should cry out and weep bitterly. The mighty men. So that's how bad it's going to be when these cities are left in ruin and despair, man. So it's not going to be a pretty time for nobody. All right. So this is the book of 2 Esdras 8. And I'm going to start at verses 50. And it says, for many great misery should be done to them that in the latter time should dwell in the world, because they have walked with great pride. And a lot of it, people are going to suffer because of your pride. Okay, your pride and your false sense of dignity. Because see, one thing about the American people, they thrive on comfortability. I want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable. I want to be set up. I want to be in this predicament. I want to have this particular safety net. So therefore, when the shit happens, I'll be good. But the average person, they don't realize that once the system collapses, everything they work for pretty much goes to shit, because you won't be able to go to ATMs. Banks for sure ain't going to be open. All right. Grocery stores are going to be ransacked, and people are going to be robbing banks and looting ATMs and looting people, breaking in places and stores and all this other shit to get what they need, man, to ultimately be met with martial law opposition, because martial law will be declared, as a lot of militias are gearing up to come up against you tribes and you so-called minorities, man. But reading here, it says here, but understand thou for thyself and seek out the glory for such as be like thee. Okay, so this is the reason why our message is to the hopeful elect, and the hopeful elect only, because we understand that these people are they're not gonna hearken to the message of the Lord. They're not gonna hearken into the message of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai and his men. But instead they're gonna lean on their own understanding. So therefore they're gonna be jacked up. Okay, but going down here, these things I'm not showing to all men, but yeah, okay, so let's go from here to 2 Esdras 9:1. And it says, and he answered me and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, when thou seest part of the signs past, which I've told thee before. And this is how we're measuring the times, going into these articles, these news clips, prophecy, because the Middle East is pretty much on fire right now. All right, Gaza, that shit is through. It's a mess. My brother uploaded footage of it last night, and I was going to do a lesson on it, man. But this world is literally being brought to ruins. But the average person, they can't see it because they're too glued to social media and trying to get their reasoning intact. But it says, then thou shalt understand that this is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. It says, therefore, when there should be seen earthquakes and uproars of peoples in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Okay, so these things were always spoken about in ancient times, according to Isaiah, I think it's the 40, what it goes into Isaiah 43, 44, if I'm not mistaken, when the Lord said that things I do, new things I do declare, and before they come to pass, I tell you of them. All right. Ezekiel 7, and I'm going to start at verses 2. It says, "And thou, son of man, thus says the Lord Yahweh unto the land of Israel, the end has come upon the four corners of the land." And we're seeing this happening in Gaza right now, man. But not only that, the people of the Heavenly Father, which is the Negro, Hispanic, and Native American, man, and the Israelite foreigners that's been scattered abroad, our people, the end has come upon our people, man, with the elect having the hopeful chance of escaping judgment. But it says, "Now is the end come upon thee, and I will send my anger upon thee." And how is the Lord's anger poured out? Through wrath, through judgment, okay? These blackouts and grid outages, once this entire system collapses, that's when things are going to start to click in people's mind that, yeah, it's go time. All right, it ain't going to be nowhere safe you can go. All right, unless you got a bunker or unless you like in a rural area. But even then, in the rural area, you're going to have wars and skirmishes out there because of the particular land and the resources that people have owning farms. And then you're going to have a lot of city people that's going to migrate to the country to try to get away from the chaos in the city just to be met with opposition in the country. So you literally are going to have fighting on all sides, man. Looting, robbery, people breaking in houses, man. Women getting raped, children getting kidnapped, men getting put to death in the street, gang wars, regional wars, civil wars, block wars, race wars, every war you could think about. And on top of that, you're going to have attacks that's going to hit Babylon too, because you have sleeper cell groups in America staging off or planning to stage off heists in America, man, by attacking these government infrastructures. So don't count that out. But it says here, "And I will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense upon thee all thy abominations. And my eyes should not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thy abominations should be in the midst of thee. And ye should know that I am the Lord," man. All right. So, yeah, it's going to get real, real bad out here. All right. Because when you go to book of, matter of fact, let's go down to verses 26, because this is where it gets grievous. It says here, matter of fact, let's start at verses 23. And it says, "Make a chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes, and the city is full of violence," man. All right. Bloody crimes and violence. No cops in sight. Nobody to deter the attacker. Nobody to get these marauders or these, because you had I believe it was, forgot what state that was, but you had some niggas that broke out of prison, which they think is a inside job. But you had some niggas that broke out of prison a couple of days ago, and they had that shit on CCTV, which that could have all been a hoax or whatever. Who knows? Ain't nobody that's breaking out of jail, but they believe it was an inside job. But just imagine when these prisons get open and they let these hardened criminals come out on the streets, man. Like Trump talking about deporting these hardened criminals back to Venezuela and Cuba and El Salvador, which I don't really believe that. Okay, I believe he's grabbing up people that's actually citizens and actually working and not causing problems, because you have to understand, the Lord wants it to the point of utter chaos out here. So a lot of those hardened criminals and men from other countries like Iran and Venezuela and Chinese nationals, and you got them people from Ukraine, a lot of them are still over here posing as sleeper cells. And it says, "The land is full of bloody crimes and violence, and the city is full of violence. Wherefore I will bring the worst of the heathen, and they shall possess their houses, and I will make also the pomp of the strong to cease, and their holy places should be defiled. But destruction cometh, and they should seek peace, and there should be none." As I mentioned, nothing but chaos. It says, "Mischief should come upon mischief, and rumor should be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law should perish from the priests, and counsel from the ancients," man. "And the king shall mourn, and the princes shall be clothed with desolation, and the hands of the people of the land will be troubled. And I will do unto them after their way, and according to their deserts will I judge them, and they should know that I am Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai," man. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna end it there. Several more scriptures we can get into, but I actually got to make a run, so Salakia for cutting it short. But with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you're edified. Until the next lesson, Shalom.